For marketing, I would say that the myth which I would like to debunk is it's a very glamorous role. What consumers see is a beautiful brand ambassador with flowing hair, with the perfect attire, with the perfect lighting, with these designer aesthetics, which is one piece of 30-second communication which probably took 6 months behind the curtains for the marketing team and the advertising agency to come up with.
Do you think being a content creator will help them perform their role better when they get into a brand role?
I have friends who are dentists and doctors and dermatologists, and they are feeling this pressure to create content. Because maybe a portion of their target group and their audience is also looking at Instagram follower bases and engagement rate, etc. for these businesses. And these are hard-coded technical skills. So like many of our listeners today, I think I'm also an engineer who switched lines as a fresher by pursuing my MBA and writing all possible entrance exams, right from CAT, MyCAT, XAT, GMAT.
What do you think is the impact of AI on marketing and sales in general?
Today, you can see an asset and you can't tell whether it is AI generated or it has been shot with a multi-crore budget. But at the same time, AI cannot become somebody's therapist or doctor, which I'm glad. So I think AI is not the enemy. You have to learn how to partner with AI to improve your own work efficiency.
Hi everyone, welcome to one more exciting episode of Future You. Today our guest is Mitali Parekh-Acharya. She did her MBA from SPJIMR in 2014. And after that, she has worked with some iconic brands like Garnier, Pampers, and also with companies like L'Oreal and P&G. Today, she'll talk about her 10-year or 12 years specifically career across sales, marketing, branding, and now in an exciting new role as an innovation director. So, thank you, Mitali, for joining us. I hope the audience today will have lots to learn from you.
Super. Thank you, sir, for having me. It's definitely a great opportunity. While on my way here, I was thinking 14 years from today, when I was preparing for CAT, I had so many questions about how my career would pan, which B school I would get into, what will happen post B school. So I'm very glad to be given this opportunity to speak to people, and hopefully something will work out even better than what has worked out for me. So like many of our listeners today, I think I'm also an engineer who switched lines as a fresher by pursuing my MBA and writing all possible entrance exams, right from CAT, MyCAT, XAT, GMAT. And the great thing that worked out from that was, of course, I got accepted at SPJIMR in Mumbai, and I pursued my MBA in sales and marketing for 2 years in their full-time flagship program. After that, I joined L'Oreal as a management trainee, and the 12 years of working post-MBA have panned out broadly across 3 companies. So there was L'Oreal India, Procter & Gamble India, Tata Click, and now I'm back at L'Oreal for my second stint with the company.
So in your first sales stint,
yes.
Did you have sales pressure? Were you chasing numbers?
Absolutely. So it's an interesting question, because a lot of my friends or younger cousins also ask me this, that I want to do marketing, but I'm scared of sales. So my first point to them is, please don't be scared of sales. Okay. Because I think sales and marketing have to absolutely work hand in hand, be it an FMCG company or a tech forward company or an e-commerce company. And why the sales stint, especially in my case in FMCG, helped me is because it acquaints you to the ground realities of retail in India like nothing else will. So handling inventory, you understand what is slow moving inventory, you understand margin structures. This appreciates your understanding of a total brand P&L, because you go from an MRP to the retailer landing price to a distributor landing price, the cost to company, and then you come to a profit before tax, profit after tax. Of course, I'm mentioning this at a very high level, but this was something that I really appreciated in sales. Yes, the pressure is high, wherein you have multiple targets to achieve in terms of revenue, in terms of distribution, in terms of new product launches, in terms of merchandising executed. But if going by how competitive CAT exams are these days, I think if you can handle that pressure, you will be able to handle sales pressure. And mind you, irrespective of your gender, men and women both can do sales equally well. And I definitely think it's a great way to kickstart your marketing career, especially in FMCG companies, if you start with sales.
And did you visit wholesalers, retailers throughout your
Yes.
entire stint on sales?
Yes, I think I had to really move gears in my own personality because considering engineering and then MBA and then starting off as a fresher, I had to sort of let go of the white collar way of working, everything being very systematic and organized via emails and meeting invites, etc. When you are in retail sales, of course, you have your meetings, your targets, your Excel sheets for tracking targets on a daily basis. But when you're talking to a retailer, a wholesaler or distributor, you have to be on top of your numbers. You have to understand that month's schemes, discounts, promotions. You should have an understanding of being in the shoes of a businessman, because a retailer, a distributor, a wholesaler is a businessman first. They're not really brand custodians. For them, whether the merchandising is a 10 on 10 is not as important as how fast the inventory is moving, what is their return on investment. So for a pure business understanding, I think nothing can train you as well as a sales role can.
Nice. So in your role as a brand manager, right? So did you work on campaigns? Did you come up with slogans? People is always very curious to know, what does a brand manager do?
I think growing up as any other millennial kid, I used to enjoy watching television, and the marketing kida came from the fact that I used to enjoy watching advertisements more than the TV serial. So my perception initially was that a brand manager works on jingles, slogans, brand communication. It is true to a certain extent, but I really understood what goes behind marketing once I started doing the job. So broadly speaking, different companies have a different structure, but of the 2-3 companies that I have worked with, marketing as a function has 2 sub-functions. There is operational marketing or brand delivery, business numbers, and the other part is brand communication or brand design. So different companies use different terms for it. When we talk about operational marketing, the roles and responsibilities include the brand P&L, achieving the revenue numbers for the brand for the year, looking at channel specific plans. When I say channel, it means retail channel, wholesale channel, modern trade, e-commerce. And at the same time, also being responsible for the market share numbers. And when I talk about brand communication, brand innovation, brand strategy, etc., or brand marketing, this involves being responsible for the brand strategy, the brand's product portfolio, new launches. So you get to work far more closely on the product and packaging side. And also you work on brand communication. Typically, most companies brief creative agencies, advertising agencies such as the Ogilvy's and Leo Burnett's of the world. But increasingly, I'm seeing that a lot of D2C companies, the digital first, Instagram first companies are themselves working on communication. So it's a shifting dynamic that we are also sort of getting acquainted with. And to put it simply, this demarcation, we would have heard of the 4 P's of marketing. So product and price is typically what the brand design team works on, and promotion and place is typically what the operational marketing team takes care of. And of course, they work very closely hand in hand with each other, because they are each other's sounding boards, along with, of course, working with other functions such as consumer research, testing, research and innovation, sales, and so on and so forth.
Correct. And now if you can speak about your latest role as an innovation director.
Yes.
And I gather that you work across countries. You are handling India, Indonesia and Thailand. So it's a tremendously huge role with great responsibility. Yes. So what do you exactly do there? How does your day look like in that particular role?
So it's been a little over a year that I have been working as the innovation director for L'Oreal, wherein the market scope is emerging markets, and within that, of course, there's South Asia Pacific, Middle East, North Africa, the key focus being South Asia Pacific, and we are centered out of India. So this role is a little bit more upstream, working on product, wherein I'm working on new product, new technologies, new ingredients, which will be launched by L'Oreal across its categories and across its divisions and brands 3 to 5 years from now. So it is a far more strategic and a future forward sort of a role. But it's definitely something that I enjoy doing a lot, because in my previous experiences also, I've really enjoyed working on the physical, tangible product itself. So it's an exciting role wherein I can also find myself leaning back a little bit on my engineering experience, my technical understanding, because I'm working with formulators who are working on new galenics, new textures, new efficacies. And we also work closely with consumer research, with the evaluation team, scientific communication team. So very many teams. Just to give you an appreciation of the amount of work that goes behind a product you see on the shelf, is probably minimum 18 months to over like 10 years also sometimes.
Okay, so if you can tell me across sales, marketing, branding, one stereotype that you actually found to be true, about sales and marketing, and maybe one or two myths that I think you have busted already.
I think the stereotype about sales being aggressive and numbers oriented to a large extent is true. Take the word aggressive with a pinch of salt, because you need to understand sales is a very objective role. Your KPIs and your roles and responsibilities are completely hard-coded. It's not necessarily some soft skills or qualitative linked. So sales does require you to be very objective and look at your daily numbers as a target achievement percentage, etc. For marketing, I would say that the myth which I would like to debunk is it's a very glamorous role, because it's far from glamorous really. Because what consumers see is a beautiful brand ambassador with flowing hair, with the perfect attire, with the perfect lighting, with these designer aesthetics, which is one piece of 30-second communication which probably took 6 months behind the curtains for the marketing team and the advertising agency to come up with. So that is a myth I would like to debunk about marketing.
When you're handling beauty, let's say women beauty products, do you think a male brand manager would work for that role?
Oh, absolutely. I think L'Oreal has a very healthy mix of both men and women working on products and brands which cater to maybe just women, for instance, makeup. However, now we are even seeing globally in a few developed markets, men's makeup and men's grooming is also growing at a significantly fast pace. Closer home in India, based on my colleagues at L'Oreal, and even when I was at Tata Click and I was working on the beauty platform, we used to meet a lot of different brands for who we used to make joint business plans and marketing plans. So we probably met 100 plus brands across different house of brands companies, and there's a very healthy mix of men and women. I think what helps irrespective of the gender, to be able to work on these products, even if you are not a direct consumer of the same, is having a lot of empathy for your consumers. So if I'm a male brand manager for female makeup in India, I should be able to interact with as many consumers as possible to understand how much time it takes for them to apply their makeup, how many products are they using, is it a 5-step routine, is it a 15-step routine, what is the occasion for which they are wearing makeup. For a wedding occasion, the amount of products, the amount of time and the amount of skill needed is very different versus an everyday makeup. And when you start being empathetic towards your consumers, you start being able to put yourself in their shoes, and then you work on products which can ease their life. So gender is no bar as long as you're able to understand the pulse of your consumers.
Great. So when I hear you talk about your experience at these brands and fantastic companies, I think a lot of skills are involved. You're talking about being on top of the numbers, you're talking about looking at UX, you're talking about interacting a lot of team members across functions. So if you can tell me, if somebody wants to get into, let's say, a similar space as you did, what skills should one work on right now, and maybe what skills will he pick up during his MBA that will help him do his job well?
Great. So first comes a disclaimer of sorts that everybody is a work in progress, and hence you can always learn on the job. You can learn during your MBA. You can learn from people who have similar experience if you are a fresher like I was. But I think the basic skill set that everybody should have a comfort for numbers. So being able to look at data, extract meaningful insights from the data, and the more you will expose yourself to data, you will also be able to make hypotheses, which is what we do. We make hypotheses of whether we are losing market share in a particular state in the country and our competition is number one, but we are number two. Being able to think, why is this happening? Is it that that brand is stronger in the predominant sales channel in that state, whereas we aren't? So making those hypotheses and then digging the data helps. So this is probably a hard-coded technical skill set that I would say helps, especially if you want to do like a brand delivery sort of a role or a business delivery role. The second skill set I would say is observation and insights. So simply observing a consumer's usage and attitude, their behavior, the way they use a product or a consumable, etc., trying to understand how this can be better. What can you do to improve convenience factor for a consumer, for instance? I think that helps. And the last but not the least, which I don't think is linked just to marketing, is multifunctional skills. So being able to work with somebody from finance, with somebody from IT, with somebody from operations, without entering the conversation by saying, hey, I'm a brand manager, I don't understand head or tail of what you're saying, is not going to take you forward. Just as a brand manager, you will expect your operations manager to understand why it is important for the stock to be ready on 1st December for billing. The operations manager also expects you to understand why it is difficult for the factory to run a 14 or a 24-hour shift versus a 12-hour shift for XYZ reasons. So having that sort of an empathy and understanding different functions will help, because at the end of the day, it's not a single person's job, right? It's multiple functions coming together to make that one product arrive on shelf inside the store possible.
For your own personal learning, what do you follow? Is there a book or a podcast or a YouTube series that you can recommend to our audience right now?
I think for me, it's been quite scattered. I look at inspiration from different sources. I definitely like listening to Nikhil Kamat's podcasts, and I pick and choose the industries, of course, I'm interested in. I've heard his podcast from longevity to retail sales in India with Mr. Kishore Biyani, and I have come away learning something interesting. May or may not be immediately applicable in what I do, but I found it quite intriguing. And second, because I started my career in retail sales, I thought to myself, if I could have watched series like Panchayat or Gullak back then, it would have increased my appreciation for the retail landscape of India far more. And last but not the least, I enjoy watching content created by Gen Z influencers especially, because all this while, I think for the last 10 odd years, our TG, our target group or target audience, was 18 to 25-year-olds or 18 to 35-year-olds were typically millennials. Now for the age range, the same age range, I'm looking at Gen Zs also coming in it. And it's true, similar to baby boomers being different from a Gen X, being different from millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha and Gen Beta are going to have very different takes on the world. So when I see Gen Z influencers or content creators, the way they talk about a product, how important authenticity is to them, they may not necessarily fall for the brand trap. Increasingly, they're preferring D2C brands, direct-to-consumer brands. They're preferring digital-first products. They're preferring sustainable, natural, eco-friendly things. I think this was quite eye-opening and inspiring for me.
So again, a question more for the aspirants now. Do you think being a content creator, will help them perform their role better when they get into a brand role? Or you think the two are disconnected?
I think we live in very interesting times, because I have friends who are dentists and doctors and dermatologists, and they are feeling this pressure to create content because maybe a portion of their target group and their audience is also looking at social statistics, Instagram follower bases and engagement rate, etc. for these businesses. And these are hard-coded technical skills, right? So coming back to what a brand manager does, I'm not a content creator. For me personally, my privacy is important. Hence, I don't see myself being a content creator with an open profile. But being able to understand content creators, talking to them face to face, understanding what drives them really helps. For instance, now even at Tata Click and at P&G, when we were briefing influencers for the social media campaign, we learned increasingly that influencers don't want to follow a set format, wherein you say the first 3 seconds we talk about the tension, the next 5 seconds product reveal, USP, communication. A traditional brand manager was looking at the concept being relayed by a influencer, whereas the influencer will not look at it as that. The influencer will say, let me talk about my morning cup of coffee after a sleepless night being a mother of a 1-year-old. And hence, in her perspective, the way she will talk about an under eye serum is very different versus a Gen Z consumer or a Gen Z influencer who is up doing binge watching on Netflix and is going to college for a presentation and wants to look presentable. The same product, the under eye serum, will be spoken about so differently by these two content creators. So giving that creative liberty to content creators is something that a brand manager should keep in mind. And believe you me, I know it's a tough job because we have our own brand metrics, our brand guidelines to be followed, do's and don'ts. And at the same time, we have to ensure that the asset comes across as believable and credible. Okay. And now with the mandatory collab and ad hashtags that the creators have to put, it becomes already very difficult because the moment the audience is seeing the asset, some of them will notice that this is a branded asset and they may skip through it altogether.
So, Mitali, across your 12-year career, are there campaigns, products that you are particularly proud of? You think that they really made an impact? You would like to hear, how did you do that? What was the end outcome of the same?
Yes. I think I'm, of course, proud of all the work that I have done, but there are few experiences and campaigns which hit closer home. Especially now in hindsight that I'm a mother, I can relate to that work more. So both of these projects were when I was working as the senior brand manager and then got promoted to brand director for Pampers. Pampers is India's leading baby diaper brand owned by Procter & Gamble, the company. The first initiative that we worked on actually started with a business problem we needed to solve for. With the increasing salience of e-commerce as a channel and the efficacy of digital media, we realized that our digital media needed improvements in efficiency. So we understood that the purest form of data could be a consumer's machine ID or device ID, which will only happen when the consumer downloads an app. And then started the journey of end-to-end concept testing, designing the user experience, a rewards program for parents, as well as locally relevant content for parents in India, which led to the launch of an app called Pampers Baby World. We worked on this app right from conceptualization, exposing the concepts to almost over 100 parents over a duration of about 7 months, and coming up with a name of with a library of almost 10,000 Indian relevant names, many recipes, etc. So it was a one-stop shop for parents to get all possible content, help and questions and answers on babies in the age of 0 to 2 and even sort of pregnant women. The positive or the end result of this entire journey of working on the app was that it helped us in significantly improving our targeting on digital media platforms. What was an interesting journey for me was that I could go back to a lot of skills I had picked up when I had learned computer programming, coding as a part of my engineering, which helped me in this role. So that was one journey that I'm quite proud of. And the second one is a reminder of how brands not just stand for an identifier for a product, but brands also stand for values and principles. This came with Pampers' global initiative which supports equal parenting, which involves or asks for as equal as possible participation and involvement of fathers and mothers in the care and upbringing of kids. The campaign name was #ItTakesTwo, and this was a recurring campaign of sorts. We had the first one in around 2018, and in 2019-2020 we launched the second leg of it. And in order to support how we are trying to talk to fathers and getting them more involved in the care of babies, P&G globally had announced a 2 months paternity leave for all father employees. And the icing on the cake was how this campaign was appreciated by the content creators, couples who we worked with, and the audiences at large. But also the campaign won an FE award in the subsequent year. So these are the two campaigns or projects that I really sort of think made a positive impact, especially considering I'm a mother now and I can see how my husband is also pressed for time when he wants to spend time with our children.
So now coming to the next question, which is about the future of work, so there's a lot of talk about AI, obviously. So what is the impact of AI, let's say, on marketing, of how to create ads, on sales? Obviously, we spoke about, digital ads. So, so what do you think is the impact of AI on marketing and sales in general?
We live in very interesting times today, wherein today you can see an asset and you can't tell whether it is AI generated or it has been shot with a multi-crore budget. So AI has definitely helped improve efficiencies. There is no doubt about it. But at the same time, AI cannot become somebody's therapist or doctor, which I'm glad that now there are rules in place, specifically in a few countries, which doesn't allow AI to, or ChatGPT as an example, to help you answer those questions. Specifically in marketing, we have made a few conscious calls. For instance, we avoid using any consumer-facing communication which is AI generated, because we think it's not true to the brand or true to the product efficacy. Even on Amazon, when you purchase, you can see that they have AI generated summary of the ratings and reviews. There might be reviews running into thousands or lakhs, but that one summary significantly helps improve your purchase making decision. So there is no two ways about how AI is improving experiences for people, but I hope that AI does not replace us completely. Not only will it make us lazy, but it will also make people run out of jobs. So I think AI is not the enemy. You have to learn how to partner with AI to improve your own work efficiencies. Qualitative decisions cannot be made by AI. So you work with tandem with AI and it will help.
Sure. So what would your 1 minute advice be to young MBA aspirants? What skills should they pick up? What is the future of work according to you?
Yeah. Hindsight is a beautiful thing, because now that I think in hindsight, when I was a fresher pursuing my MBA from SPJIMR, where there were 200 plus other students and majority of them had work experience, I wish I had spoken more to them and understood what they did, because you get a beautiful melting pot of people from different industries, different functions. The amount you will learn by conversations with them is not easily replicated by books. So number one, try to speak to people. Even if you have work experience yourself, you will be exposed to people from so many different public companies, private companies, somebody who's worked with the government, which won't be possible in the future very easily. So one is that. And second, I think do focus on setting your fundamentals right. I know when we pursued MBA, we had a lot of open book exams. So people thought it's easy to pass the exam by simply opening the book and finding the answer to the question. But really try to focus in class to understand fundamentals, because the initial years of your MBA and the initial years of work experience, you will have the courage and comfort to ask questions which may sound basic. But the more senior you get, you may feel embarrassed to ask questions, or you may be judged to ask a certain basic question. So get your basics right is the second advice. And the third advice, which I think really helped me, was participate in company-related competitions. So Unilever's Lime, L'Oreal's Brandstorm, a lot of consulting companies also run these competitions. So when you participate in these competitions, you get as close as possible to a business challenge while you're doing your MBA and you're solving for it. So these three things should hold you in good stead.
If I remember correctly, you got into L'Oreal because you won their competition, right?
Yes. So it was a very interesting journey, and I'm glad that L'Oreal continues this. L'Oreal has an international marketing competition called Brandstorm, which is open to graduates and postgraduates from across the world. Every year, they give you one case study to solve for, which could be associated with a brand or a division or even sustainability in the recent past. And students participate in the competition by submitting a presentation with a whole communication idea, mock-ups, deliverables. So for us, it was a 6-month-long journey, right from winning the college finalists to the state finals to the national finals, and then getting an opportunity to present along with 30 other teams at the Grand Palais Royal in France, in Paris. And we won the international championship. So as a reward, of course, we got a prize money to take a trip anywhere in the world, the 3 of us team members. And the other reward was also getting an opportunity to do an internship with L'Oreal. And that's how my journey with L'Oreal started professionally as well. So
Quite
definitely
interesting.
a positive experience.
Correct. And last bit of advice, so it's the interview season now. So there are students in B schools who are preparing for their placements, and there are students who are preparing for their MBA interviews now. So what for people who are looking for prep for branding and marketing and sales roles, what is that 30-second interview prep advice for them?
Firstly, I think overall, irrespective of a branding or a marketing role, when individuals are answering questions asked in an interview, try to follow a C.A.R framework. So context, action, and result. So what was the business challenge, or what was the problem that you were trying to solve for? What was the thought process that you followed in the action? What was the activity that you took up to resolve it? And then what was the result? Can be qualitative or quantitative or both. So first, try to answer questions in this framework. It significantly helps improve cohesiveness and the interviewer's understanding of what you have done. Second, specifically to marketing, I think, I don't know how relevant it is today, but I remember a few of the classic questions that were asked is, what is your favorite brand and why? What is your favorite advertising or communication campaign and why? What the interviewer is looking for is not your knowledge of the width of brands that are available, but your knowledge of the depth of the particular brand that you like. What is it about the brand personality that you enjoyed? What was the cause? What was the consumer tension maybe that they took? And the third piece would be that even if you don't have relevant sales experience or marketing experience or branding experience, you would have done projects in B school, or you would have taken up extracurricular activities, or you would have been an entrepreneur in the past where you would have been exposed to those skill sets. So try to bring those examples to the fore, because they are a reflection of how you could do when you are faced with similar business challenges on the job. So I think these 3 things should help.
Great. I think it was a very, very interesting discussion, Mitali. I hope you also enjoyed the discussion. Absolutely. And to the audience, I think this was a 30-minute masterclass into sales, marketing, and branding. So I think this was one of the best 30 minutes you could spend on YouTube. So thank you very much, Mitali. And we wish you all the best, both in your personal and professional life going forward.
Thank you so much. And I wish all the best to the IMS team, to all the students pursuing their MBA and even forward. I wish everybody has a beautiful, successful career full of learnings and a wholesome life. So all the best to all our listeners.